good afternoon. I'm Marla Ellerman. I'm publisher of Mobile Marketing and Technology Online. We're here today at the Mobile Payment Conference, and I'm here with Don Bush, who's Vice President of Marketing for Kount. How are you doing, Don?
Good, Marla. Great to be here.
Glad to have you. Don, you just finished your keynote, another great address that you delivered. And we talked about the fraud report. There was 56 pages, not a lot of time. Can we kind of go through some of the highlights that you discussed during your speech?
Sure. Well, it's always great to be here. You've got a great audience for the mobile sector, and they really respond because they understand how big mobile is becoming and where it's going in the future. Even over the past couple of years, we've seen tremendous growth and tremendous understanding of the relevancy to the merchants and organizations that are online. And that really is what the report starts to show, is the education and the importance of what the mobile channel can do for every merchant out there is starting to show great growth.
Right.
More than just research, more than just browsing, or more, it may be even more than making a payment.
Right.
It's that entire digital interaction journey of a customer. They may want to check their loyalty account. They may want to do something on a social channel and then click over to something where they buy something. Wallets are very important today. So it's starting to show merchants that this is really a solid investment, both from the payment side and being careful for the fraud side.
Well, and like you had said, and what's so great about some of the slides that you shared with us is you were able to really drill down and show how now mobile is 50% of frauds coming in 50% from there, or it's the iPad that a lot of purchases are being stopped because of the iPad, because it's the user who might be more financially secure and the purchase is larger, so it stops. Why would that purchase be stopped, and how can we prevent that not happening to consumers like us?
Well, I'll tell you what the one chart you're referring to is we saw about a 58+% increase in mobile attacks last year. And that is just indicative of the criminals out there are shifting with the times and saying there's more happening on mobile. We've got to get up to speed and do things on the mobile space so we can continue our criminal activities. The other thing you're referring to is the habits of people using mobile devices. What I would buy on my smart television is completely different than what I would buy on my iPhone or my Android phone or my iPad. And merchants have to get used to what those different patterns and behaviors are. And one of the things we talked about was the iPad, even though in the back end it shows fewer fraud attempts than the iPhone or say a Google phone or an Android phone, and yet it has declined more often than either one of those other devices. And the interesting thing is when you start peeling back the onion, the average purchase of a user on an iPad is about 2 or 3 times in size what it is on an iPhone. And so merchants, if your average purchase is $150, they're a little bit more risk averse to a large order than they are a small order. And so those get declined at a greater rate.
Oh, okay.
And so even though that's your best customer, as you mentioned, they have higher incomes, they have more disposable income, more disposable time to use an iPad and buy and own an iPad. And yet they're being declined when they actually should be accepted more often.
Interesting. You also mentioned biometrics. Is that something that Kount uses in their fraud protection platform services? Is that something that you guys are rolling out, or how does that work? I mean, who gets that data? How do you know if it's, who saves the pattern? Is that you guys?
So there's a couple of different layers to biometrics. One is the simple one. I've got a phone that has a thumb scanner on it. That's a level of biometrics. Now that happens to be one that's a little more static. Whether you use a thumb scan, a voice scan, a retinal scan, those are all forms of biometric identification. But those can be spoofed, just like passwords and other things like that. What I was mentioning there is behavioral biometrics.
Okay.
When you get onto your phone, you log in differently than I do.
Right.
You may swipe your code, I punch my code. You may hit lighter when you touch the screen than I do. You may hold your phone like this and I hold it like this when I talk. These are patterns that are user-based behavioral patterns that can be looked at and determined almost as much as a fingerprint when you start looking at it. So if I have an account, let's say I have a Delta loyalty account or a United loyalty account, I can get on there and over time it can learn what my patterns are. And then if somebody that is not me tries to get on, they go, well, that pattern is not something we're used to. So we're going to try a second authentication. We're going to ask some of those out of the wallet questions like, what was the name of your first pet? Where did you go to elementary school? Those types of things, so that we can verify who you are and if you are actually who you say you are. Kount does behavioral biometrics. It looks at all those different pieces of data and determines with the merchant what is acceptable and what's not acceptable.
That's great. One other question I had for you. You guys are really an education leadership company in the industry. Do you think that has anything to do with why you guys are #1 in fraud, or do you think it's just because your service is so great?
I think, well, it's great. We have a great service. I'm not going to deny that. We think we're the best in the world, and many of our customers and affiliates and partners would agree. But as you get into this space, I think it becomes the responsibility of some of the leaders to provide some of that education. As you know, you can't go to university today and get a fraud mitigation degree.
Right.
And so it's kind of on-the-job training.
Yeah.
When you get to a merchant or a financial institution and you deal with online transactions, frauds, interactions, you kind of learn as you go. And so we've taken on that role of educator to show people what they're up against and how to best stop those fraud tactics all over the world. So it's been very satisfying. We talk to literally thousands of merchants a year.
Right.
And not only do we educate them, they tell us what they're up against, and we
Fix it.
make sure our product is helping them.
That's great. And now this 56-page report, we can just go to your website and download it, right?
Go to Kount.com on the resources tab, and it has it on there as one of the white papers reports, and you can download it for free.
Perfect. Or you can contact us at the Mobile Payment Conference and we'll get you a copy. Anything else you'd like to add?
Thanks for having us. We're always great to be a part of the conference. It's terrific.
Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.